Marius' heart had always felt a peculiar calling to the sea. Born and raised in a coastal town, the ocean was more than just a backdrop to his life. It was a living, breathing entity that whispered secrets in the crash of waves and the howl of storms. When he accepted the position as the keeper of Blackreach Lighthouse, he felt a sense of purpose unlike anything he had ever known. The towering structure stood on a jagged outcrop of rock, isolated from the mainland save for a narrow bridge that seemed perpetually cloaked in mist. For years, Marius had tended to the lighthouse with diligence. Every night, he climbed the spiral staircase to ignite the beacon, ensuring its steady light cut through the darkness. To him, the task was sacred. Sailors depended on that light, and he took pride in his role as their unseen guardian. Yet, there was an unspoken rule among the keepers of Blackreach: never let the light falter. The directive was drilled into him during his training, but no one had ever explained why. The consequences, they implied, were unthinkable. The first time Marius noticed something strange, it was subtle. A deep, resonant hum emanated from the base of the lighthouse, audible only in the dead of night when the world was still. At first, he dismissed it as the groaning of old machinery or the restless sea. But the sound wasn't mechanical, nor was it natural. It had a rhythm, almost like a heartbeat, steady and unyielding. When he pressed his ear to the cold stone walls, he swore he could feel it pulsing. One stormy evening, as Marius prepared the beacon for the night, he discovered a peculiar artifact hidden in a compartment beneath the light, a journal, leather-bound and weathered with age. Its pages were filled with the spidery handwriting of his predecessor, Captain Elias Greaves. The entries were fragmented, disjointed, and increasingly frantic. At first, they detailed mundane routines, but as Marius read further, the tone shifted. June 12th. The hum has grown louder. I cannot sleep for the sound of it. It feels alive. June 28th. The light must not go out. I am certain now. The sea is watching. July 4th. Something moves in the depths. I saw it. God help me, I saw it. Marius' hands trembled as he turned the pages. The final entry was a chilling warning. Should the light falter, the keeper's curse will claim us all. A gust of wind rattled the windows, and Marius snapped the journal shut. His unease deepened as the storm intensified. Lightning illuminated the dark waters, and for a fleeting moment, he thought he saw something massive lurking beneath the waves. He dismissed it as a trick of the light, but the hum was louder now, reverberating through the lighthouse like an unholy chant. Days turned into weeks, and Marius couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. The hum, once intermittent, became a constant presence. At night, it seemed to sync with his heartbeat, a maddening rhythm that kept him awake. He began to dream of the ocean, vast and unknowable, its depths writhing with shadows. In his dreams, the light of the beacon was a fragile thread holding back an encroaching darkness. One evening, as Marius climbed the stairs to tend to the light, he noticed a faint flicker. The beacon, which had always burned steady and bright, dimmed for a fraction of a second before reigniting. Panic surged through him. He checked the machinery, every cog and gear, but found nothing amiss. Yet the flicker continued, irregular and insidious. Desperate for answers, Marius revisited the journal. Hidden among the cryptic entries was a crude sketch of a symbol, a series of concentric circles with jagged lines radiating outward. Beneath it, Greaves had scrawled a single word: barrier. Marius' mind raced. The light wasn't just a guide for ships, it was a shield, a barrier against whatever lay beneath the waves. He began to see the lighthouse not as a sanctuary but as a prison, a sentinel standing guard over a horror the world was never meant to know. That night, as the storm howled outside, the flickering grew worse. The beacon sputtered, casting erratic shadows that danced like malevolent spirits. Marius worked frantically to stabilize the light, his hands shaking as he adjusted the mechanisms. The hum grew louder, a deafening roar that seemed to emanate from the very foundation of the lighthouse. And then the light went out. Darkness enveloped the lighthouse, and for a moment, all was silent. Then came the sound, a low, guttural moan that seemed to rise from the depths of the ocean. Marius' breath caught in his throat as he peered out the window. The sea was alive with movement, churning and frothing as though something massive was stirring beneath the surface. A shape emerged from the water, impossibly large and grotesque. It defied comprehension, its form shifting and writhing as if it were made of shadow and flesh. Dozens of eyes, glowing with an otherworldly light, fixed on the lighthouse. Marius stumbled back, his mind struggling to process the monstrosity before him. The journal's warnings echoed in his mind. The Keeper's curse will claim us all. Marius scrambled to relight the beacon, but the machinery groaned in protest. The gears refused to turn, as if the lighthouse itself was resisting him. Desperation consumed him as he searched for a solution. He remembered the symbol in the journal and hastily sketched it onto the floor with a piece of chalk. As he completed the final line, the hum reached a crescendo, and the ground shook violently. The creature outside let out a deafening roar, its many eyes narrowing in unison. The symbol glowed faintly, and for a moment, Marius felt a surge of hope. But the light remained out, and the barrier was failing. The creature began to move toward the lighthouse, its massive form rising higher with each passing second. Marius descended into the depths of the lighthouse, guided by an inexplicable compulsion. The hum was unbearable now, resonating through his very bones. At the base of the lighthouse, he discovered a hidden door, its surface etched with the same symbol from the journal. It creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling downward into darkness. He descended cautiously, his lantern casting feeble light on the damp stone walls. The air grew colder with each step, and an oppressive sense of dread settled over him. At the bottom of the staircase, he entered a cavernous chamber. In the center stood an ancient, intricately carved pedestal. Atop it rested a crystal orb, pulsing with a faint, eerie glow. Instinctively, Marius reached out to touch the orb. The moment his fingers brushed its surface, visions flooded his mind. He saw the history of the lighthouse, its purpose as a guardian against the horrors of the deep. He saw the sacrifices made by previous keepers, their lives consumed by the duty of maintaining the light. And he saw the creature, an ancient being of unimaginable power, imprisoned but not defeated. The visions ended as abruptly as they began, leaving Marius breathless and disoriented. He understood now. The light was not just a barrier, it was a weapon, a tether that kept the creature bound to the ocean floor. Without it, the world was at the mercy of the abyss. Marius ascended the staircase with newfound determination. He had to reignite the light, no matter the cost. As he reached the beacon room, the creature loomed just outside, its many eyes glowing with malice. The lighthouse trembled under its assault, the walls cracking as the beast's massive tentacles wrapped around the structure. With trembling hands, Marius activated the mechanisms he had repaired. The beacon sputtered to life, its light cutting through the darkness. The creature let out a deafening shriek, recoiling from the light's searing intensity. Marius watched as the symbol he had drawn glowed brightly, reinforcing the barrier and driving the monstrosity back into the depths. But the effort took its toll. The hum subsided, replaced by a deep silence that pressed heavily on Marius' ears. He collapsed to the floor, his strength drained. The visions had shown him the truth. The light required a sacrifice. To keep the barrier intact, the Keeper's life force was slowly consumed. As dawn broke, the lighthouse stood resolute against the endless sea. Marius, now a shadow of his former self, gazed out at the horizon. He understood his purpose, his burden. The light must never falter, for it was the only thing standing between the world and the abyss. And so, the Keeper's curse endured, a silent testament to the horrors that lurked beneath the waves.